Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. With us today is Internal Revenue Chief Kim Henares. As tax chief, she's earned a reputation of being tough, spearheading a name and shame campaign against tax evaders. Credit rating agencies cite improved revenue collections under her term and their decision to upgrade the Philippines to investment grade. Henares is reportedly being eyed to take over the top customs post after President Aquino criticized the agency. Now Henares is speaking to us from Rappler about her reform initiatives in the Internal Revenue Bureau. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
How do you define the problem that you're facing now?
In the Bureau of Internal Revenue?
Yes.
Well, I guess the problem really is we have a National Internal Revenue Code that basically says to people that you are taxable, and that a general rule is you're taxable unless you're specifically exempted. People have a natural aversion for paying taxes, so sometimes the cat and mouse game. Some people have this tendency not to report properly because that's money they can save, right? They would just wait for us to catch them. Then when we catch them, then they will try to do all the tricks there is in the book. No? Of course, before there were people who know somebody who will talk to somebody, right? Or they will bring us to court, delay the whole thing before when the court finally decides. That's when they would pay. No? So it's really like pulling teeth, right? So
And what are you doing differently now to address the problem?
Well, first we have basically changed our focus. No? Before, we have always there's a tension between customer service and law enforcement, no? And normally customer service becomes much more predominant over law enforcement. But with this administration, we basically move back to being a law enforcement agency. And to our mind, it's very clear that that's our primary role, no? Implement the National Internal Revenue Code. Customer-centric becomes secondary in the sense that you do those things to make sure people can comply. So at the end of the day, it still helps in law enforcement.
How do you deal with your own bureau now? Because of course, people have talked about how enforcement has kicked in high now, but that corruption is still a problem in the bureau.
Well, I think at the end of the day, you can never eliminate corruption, no? Because I cannot be in all places all the time.
Yes.
The thing there is, I believe that we have minimized it to a great extent, especially in the national office. I would believe that that's where the impact can be seen the greatest. No? As you move out of the national office, the further you are, that's where it becomes more prevalent. So the challenge is how to spread that culture. No? It's like we have started spreading it out in the national office. As offices are nearer us, they become more conscious about that. No? So how do you basically shake the bottle and make sure the ink is evenly distributed to the whole bottle?
In this period of transition where you're really, as you said, changing the culture, people are also saying that those who are most compliant are the ones who keep having to pay more. Is that correct?
Well, I think the people who are most compliant, for me, this is the rule. If you're very compliant, you don't need to bribe anyone. So if you don't bribe anyone, most probably nobody will come back and harass you because they cannot get anything, right? The people who are always going back, who always complain that they're always being audited, most probably are those people who come across, right? Because if you come across, then you just encourage people to keep on coming back.
Yes.
No? So the first defense is really to be tax compliant. No? Because if you're tax compliant and then you have the right to say that you can audit me, You can stay in my premises for 1 year and you cannot find anything. If you do find anything, then I will pay it legitimately. At the end of the day, those people who target you will grow tired. They will think of other people to target, right? And the other thing we're trying to do also is do a risk-based selection of audit. We have piloted that with a large taxpayer now. We have risk rating, and basically it's if you obtain a certain grade, then chances you'll be audited. Or if you've obtained a certain grade of the taxpayer in that pool, if we choose 10 taxpayer, then you will 10% of the time you might probably be audited. And there will also be, because it's a philosophy that everyone should be audited once in their lifetime.
Correct.
So there will always be some, you will have to get that experience of being audited.
Let me ask you about the middle class, the professionals. A piece in the Inquirer today says something about how there's, you mentioned a 90% tax evasion rate for professionals, and that of those professionals who should be paying about 100,000 pesos in taxes, the average is that they're paying less than 6,000. Is this correct?
First, I was surprised with the newspaper article because I was never interviewed for that article. And second, I never said anything about 90%.
Okay.
We have a ad. We had an ad that came out yesterday, just basically saying that of the professionals in Makati, the doctors, the lawyers, and the accountant, these are how they're paying.
Okay.
And you compare it to the tax payment of a school teacher. So that's what's in the ad. So
they extrapolated off that.
Maybe, I don't know. So I really don't know where the 90% came about. I don't even know what's the basis of the 90%. Now, I just want to say that at the end of the day, I think the non-compliance is in all sector.
Okay.
It's not just a professional, but it's one of the campaign that basically tried to show people, in a way, talk to them, to their conscience. Can you in all conscience say that you're paying the right taxes if your tax payment is like this compared to a school teacher?
Yes.
So it's more because the Filipino psyche, it's either you instill fear,
yes,
or you shame them. So it's that campaign.
And those are two tactics that you're using now. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Which one is working?
I think the fear is working.
Yes.
The shame is, I don't know whether it's going to work because we're just starting. I mean, the president did mention that in his 2011 SONA, but it was in a very general statement, right? It was not very specific. Now, the ad basically specifically situate a certain sector of a certain area.
Right.
So, there.
But again, it was true, like last year, you were looking at the professionals, and many of those, like people who own businesses, upper middle class, we felt the ripple through society. It was interesting to see the reactions to the BIR at that point. What reactions did you get? Did you increase the revenue? There were several times you didn't reach target, but was it what you expected?
Well, we did increase our, we grew by 14% last year. We missed our target by 8 billion, so we basically almost got the goal. And we breached the 1 trillion mark last year. So I would believe that it's effective, but not as effective as what we want to be. I mean, we still have to work hard to reach the goal. It's not as if we can sit back and just the money will just flow in. No, it's still hard work. No? So in that sense, it's not yet fully effective.
The employed have an automatic tax deduction, and you wouldn't. Those are the guys who actually pay their income taxes, right? I mean, that's straight up front. When I was reporting from more than a decade back, all the way until about 5 or 6 years ago, the statistics showed that only 4 to 6% of Filipinos pay their income tax. Has that improved?
Well, I have not really looked at that statistic. No? Like I was mentioning, every time somebody talked to me about tax effort ratio, about percentages and all the thing, I would tell them that, you know, I'm not really an economist. No, I'm a manager, and basically, if you tell me to collect 1.253 trillion pesos, that's what I'm looking at. No? Collecting 1,253 billion, and how we will collect that amount. I'm not really very, so in that sense, even the goals that I set to everyone is based on that. No? You have to collect this much. Then the other thing we do is, okay, these are the voluntary. So we have to increase our collection from involuntary. You know, the complaint of some people that they are audited often. If you look at our statistic, these are rare statistics that I would delve in, is only 1% of total taxpayer are really audited. So 99% of the people are not audited. So, and our collection from assessment is around 2 to 3% only of our total collection.
Yes.
So most of them are voluntary payment. Given the low compliance rate, we should be collecting more from involuntary assessment.
Yes.
So that's where we are also moving toward, increasing, choosing the right people to audit, shortening the audit period so that we can collect immediately.
In your management style, I mean, going into the BIR 3 years ago, you know, in this management style, what worked for you? What tactics worked for you to bring these revenues up?
Well, I guess what worked is really making things simple, right? Eliminating discretion. In how do you make things simple? By eliminating as much discretion as possible. So at the end, when I started this job, it's a very simple instruction to all my people. No? Read the National Internal Revenue Code, apply it strictly. That's it. And so they can make, I said, you know, because that's how I view it, then all of us can really make the same decision because we're reading from the same code. And the standard we're using is the same, which is strict interpretation. So at the end of the day, anyone can make the decision, and his or her decision would most probably be also the same decision I will reach.
But changing culture is a whole other thing. I mean, how did you change the culture enough from the center that it can ripple out?
Well, I guess the thing there is I made it clear that the inaugural speech of the president basically told the civil servant that this is your opportunity to change, right? So in effect, he was saying that actually, I believe that all of you would do the right thing if you're given the right opportunity. So this is the right opportunity. And basically, that's also my statement to my people, no? That the day I assume, it's like I gave everyone a clean sheet of paper. And how that sheet of paper will come out really depends on what you write in it. It's on that day that you become accountable to me. But I also made it clear that whatever you did in the past, you're still accountable, but not to me. No? There's another body, because we have laws, we have rules, right? So it doesn't mean, because I don't have the power to forgive them, right? So they will still most probably be accountable to somebody. But to me, I'm more forward-looking, and I'm not looking at what they did in the past. No? For as long as they follow and they really signify a sincere desire to change.
Questions are coming in from social media. Let me throw a few at you. This is from Ryan Molina, at Raya Molly. What is your management style? How do you deal with padrinos of BIR personnel?
Day one, when I assume, I made it clear to everyone that I will not accept any recommendation. And they should not go to get any recommendation from anyone because they will be promoted, they will be given position based on their own performance. And I also made it clear that anytime I get a recommendation, it's a negative to their, instead of being promoted, they
Yes.
will most probably not get the promotion.
Have you had to do carrot and stick for your own people? I mean, have you had to fire people? When you find corruption in the agency, what do you do?
Well, I'm not averse to filing, because as far as we're concerned, no, we file administrative case. The Revenue Integrity Protection Service of Department of Finance does the filing either with the Ombudsman or the region or the Department of Justice, so that it can be filed with the Regional Trial Court. And the Ombudsman itself also can investigate us and file cases with the Sandigan Bayan. As far as I'm concerned, I'm very strict. You know, it's very clear what is it that we have to follow the law rules, no? Like simple rules like all of us should be at flag raising on Monday. All of us should be wearing a uniform. We should be wearing shoes, not slippers, around our offices. No children in our premises. That's why we built a daycare center so that people can bring their children there. No, because it's in our office. It's for office work.
Yes,
it's not so nice to see a professional place with a child sleeping in the conference room, right? And it's also dangerous for the child because we have so much paper. It causes allergy. So those things, we do those things. No? We're very strict about attendance, small things. So we're putting in system where we know the objective is at the end of the day we know who did what, so that if there's something wrong, then we know who should be accountable for it. So those are things that basically, of course, we also try to upgrade our facility to make the environment more and conducive place to working. No? It's not all following the rules and the law. No? It's like making the place more attractive to work in. So
creating an environment. What's the hardest decision you've had to make in the last 3 years?
The hardest decision?
Is there?
Well, I guess the hardest, it's not a hard decision, but when it was being discussed, no, like for example, the Chief Justice position, right? There were, of course, whenever the opportunity come along, you think about it.
Yes.
In that sense.
Yes.
But other than that, I don't think there was really that much of a hard decision.
Okay. From Japs Q Bonus on Twitter at @sniper_Japs, please ask Commissioner Kim, how will BIR help with Napolis's pork scam issue and Napolis daughter's lavish lifestyle? This is the Jean Napolis.
Well, I guess the thing there, like I've said, no, we like people to earn money, but just make sure you pay the right taxes. It's your right if you want to flaunt your wealth. Just make sure that you had paid the right taxes. So in that sense, we're looking at whether there's any income and whether taxes has been paid, or whether there were donations, so there must be donors tax. So those are the things that we're looking at.
The 22-year, well, when she was 22 years old, the daughter, Napolis, had an 80 million peso apartment in LA. Has that shown up in your investigations?
I cannot speak about the investigation because these are confidential.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if it's there, we will find it.
From at Miriam Grace Goes, one of ours, Dear Commissioner Kim Henares, will the flat tax rate on incomes ever become a reality in the Philippines in my lifetime?
You know, a flat tax rate is a very difficult thing to impose, no? Because businesses are different. Like for example, if you deal with groceries or trading company, their margin is very thin.
Yes.
No? So even for 100 peso good, they might be just earning 5 cents, 10 cents. No, it's the volume. Now for services, the margin are high. So their margin they can be earning 60%.
Yes.
No? So when you have a flat tax, how do you now, it becomes an injustice to one, and the other it might be too low.
Yes.
So there's a difference also.
So this isn't actually, in your mind, it's not a realistic thing. It's not a realistic policy.
It's more problematic.
Yes. Do you see any potential reforms that you would like to put in place now?
Well, there are reforms that we're pushing for the fiscal incentive rationalization bill, no? And the tax information transparency and accountability bill. It's basically rationalizing all these exemptions that we're giving away.
Yes.
Because there are exemptions that should not. I mean, because I used to be BOI governor.
Yes.
So it's as an investment, dealing with investment. Now I'm in the tax collection.
Because some of the way to get investments in is to actually cut the taxes at the beginning, right?
Yeah, but you know, I've always said, you only grant an incentive. Let's say you put an incentive in. No? It should just be for a short period of time.
Yes.
Because if you do it forever and ever, then there's a cutthroat competition.
Yes.
That's why there will be people who will become bankrupt. And at the end of the day, that incentive is no longer an incentive because everyone enjoys that.
Yes.
So the way
it deflates the entire system.
Yeah. So the way to do it is really, if you say that I'm going to give an incentive to this industry today, there should be a sunset. It should be for the next 3 years.
Correct.
I will give you that incentive. Anyone who comes after the 4th, you now have to pay the right taxes. So, in effect, that incentive is really an incentive to those people who started.
Yes, yes.
Because otherwise, there's no incentive. Because all of you are the same.
Correct. You have 3 years left. In the 3 years you have left, what's ahead for you?
Actually, as of now, we have 71 ongoing projects that we have to complete. No? Among them is we have to bid out the the stamp on cigarette, then eventually also implement it on distilled spirit. Then we are also in the enhanced tax information system, because our first round of computerization was in 92 to 98, and that computerization, it's a legacy system.
Yes.
And it's not yet web-based. So we're moving toward a web-based and integrated tax information system.
Fantastic.
And basically, this information system would also integrate all our 40 standalone systems, no? So from registration to filing to payment and everything. So it will all become integrated. No? But while we were to do that, for the past year, we have to re-engineer a lot of processes. And then from there, computerize it so that it's not garbage in, garbage out. So those are the things that we're trying to complete. And hopefully, the timetable is to complete all of this by 2014 or at the latest, middle of 2015.
Okay. Your name has been pushed out for customs.
Yeah.
Interested? Is this a surprise?
To be honest, I'm not surprised in the sense that customs collection, 80% of their collection are really internal revenue taxes. So it's a natural thing to think about the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Interested? I've not really thought about it. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm very focused on what I'm doing in the now.
Yes.
I don't want to think about what will happen or may not happen. No? I'd like to concentrate on what we're doing. Because like I said, we have 71 projects and we have a very strict timetable. We want to deliver it by 2014.
There's so many questions. I will throw 2 more and then I have 2 more and then we have to pack up. But this is from @Nalish in 3D, also on Twitter. How as ordinary citizens can we help the BIR in encouraging our kababayans to pay their taxes?
Well, first and foremost, no, as ordinary citizen, you should first pay your own taxes correctly.
Yeah.
Second, patronize only people who issue receipt. The official receipt or issue sales invoice who are registered also with the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Now, if you see anyone who does not issue a receipt or who you think are tax evader, you can actually call our office. We have a call center number, 981-8888. That's a general number.
Yes.
Or you can call a specific number that goes directly to my office, which is 981-8880 up to 82. Or you can email me in kim.jacinto-henares at bir.gov.ph. So
Wow.
we will look at it.
And you get that involved in the operations.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Have you fired anyone? Have you had to fire anyone? Have you yourself taken strong action against employees?
Well, we have,
You
no?
have.
But there are also instances where we convince them to just retire or resign.
Okay, so it's a systemic overhaul is what you're doing. When you say you're still working on the systems, I mean that's really what you're working on now. Is that correct? As
Yeah,
you're bringing in the
yes.
money. Let me throw another question. At Piper Girl, some really rich people are not in the list of top 500 taxpayers. Today, the Forbes richest just came out.
Yeah, I want to
You go after them. Yeah.
I want to explain. You know, the rich normally, their income are dividends, so that's subject to final tax.
Final tax if
Yeah,
it's
so
stock
it's
dividends,
not
yes.
in the
It's not
income
declared
tax
as income
return.
tax, yes.
In the regular income tax return. We've been trying to put it in the income tax return from interest from bank deposit.
Yes.
That's also final tax. In gain from stock transaction in the stock market, that's also final tax. No? So when Governor Salceda said we're not running after the rich enough, I would like to say that these are laws passed by Congress and Senate. It's not laws passed by the Bureau of Internal Revenue. How we can go after the rich is really constrained by the law out there. No? The bank secrecy law, which is law since the 70s. If you look at who have bank account, but the statistics said there's only so much people. And most probably these are the rich.
Yes.
So how can we investigate them when there's the bank secrecy law? So
Yes.
all these things, we're doing everything that we can despite all this law. No?
Conventional wisdom, and I've heard this a lot. Why should I pay my taxes when the government is so corrupt? Corruption is endemic. So how do you fight this conventional wisdom? Why should Filipinos pay their taxes?
You know, maybe in the past administration, I would agree about corruption. No? But in this administration, you can see naman that what we have been doing. No? But for me, as a citizen or a resident of the Philippines, you have two basic obligations. No? One is to pay your taxes, and second, to make sure that your taxes are spent properly. You cannot say that because the second is not done properly, I will not do the first. Yes. Or you cannot say that you have already done the first, therefore I don't want to do the second.
Yes.
These are two obligations I think all of us should be doing.
Yes.
And the other thing is, it's like you cannot correct a mistake by another mistake, right? So what will we do if there's no money? Therefore, there's no service. If there's no service, nothing will happen. Secondly, the driver of the economy is really the government. No? It's because government buys so many things that there are people who has companies who either sells to the government, who set up firms, right? So these are the drivers also for the economy. If you don't pay taxes, government cannot spend.
Yes.
Therefore, if they cannot spend, there will be no industry.
Yes.
If there's no industry, there will be no job. And it will put at risk the job of all these people who said they don't want to pay taxes because there's corruption. So it also comes back to you.
It's an ecosystem that you're part of. But what you have to do is to actually change culture, not just in the BIR, but change values. Are you succeeding at this now? What is the toughest challenge in trying to change the values of Filipinos?
Well, I guess the thing there, when when people ask me to say something, I don't talk about paying of taxes. What I really talked about is, why is it that we have not developed? because I believe that there's one trait that we lack, which is really the love of a country. I think that's basically what's missing in our country. We don't have a sense of country. We don't have a sense of what being a Filipino is. So, unless we acquire this value, I don't think any reform will be long-term and sustainable. No? It's really Filipinos finally loving his own country. No? We have only one country. You cannot replace it. No matter where you go, you will still be a second-class citizen. No? So in our country, I think that's the other thing. We should treat ourselves as the first-class citizen here. That's the other. The only reason I can see why we treat ourselves as a second-class citizen in our country is because we don't have that sense of country.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you will not allow anyone to step on you, right? And I believe the president, in a sense, has been conveying this message.
Yes, yes.
In his stance about certain things. No?
Yes. In many instances, it's about trust. It's about faith in governance, and our first quarter 7.8% growth rate GDP actually shows trust is coming back, right? But then incidents like the pork barrel scam shake confidence again. How would you ask Filipinos to maintain that faith and trust? What should give it?
First, we are just starting. No? It's not something you can do overnight. The other thing is, maybe you should ask yourself, did you vote for the right people? If you had voted for the right people and this has happened, then you can say it's not your fault, right? But I would believe that if majority of us did not vote for the right people, then we're equally to blame. Then secondly, I'm happy with what Bishop or Cardinal Villegas said, right? That sometimes it's also not the fault of the politician, because the constituent would always come to them, ask for money, for travel money, for medical, for everything and anything. If you look at it, how much are the salary of these people? Where would they get the money to give to all this? No? So it's also, the sin is committed not only by the sinner itself, but by the tempter also. So if we want our government officials or politicians to walk the straight and narrow path, then we should also walk the straight and narrow path and not demand them to do things that basically detour them from that road. No? So parang I always try to bring all the event to your daily life. No? In a family, nothing is perfect. There will be times when something will happen, a problem will arise. So you solve it. You don't cover it up. No? And the other analogy I always say is that sometimes in life, you do good for let's say if I'm 53 years old, I do good for all my 53 years. And suddenly there was just an incident, and I'm not infallible. I'm a human being, just a small incident. Does that mean you will erase all the goodness that I've done for the past 53 years? Sometimes it's also unfair, no? Things do happen.
Yes.
So we should face it and correct it and hold people accountable. That's why we have all this mechanism in place, precisely because things can happen. So if it happened, then for as long as there is mechanism, then I don't think we should lose that trust. No? Because all of us are human beings, right?
Fantastic. Last words.
Well, I guess, like I've said, the most important thing I believe for us is really to develop that sense of country. If we have that, I'm sure my job will be easier. Maybe we won't need the Bureau of Internal Revenue. No? And I'm sure with all the resources that we have, with all the intelligent people that the Philippines have, being a developed country is not far off. So I think that's the first and foremost thing we should develop in us. Because all the things will follow: discipline, following the law,
Yeah.
not using padrino system. It all will follow from that.
Fantastic. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much. We've been speaking with Tax Chief Kim Henares on reform initiatives in the Bureau of Internal Revenue, changing culture, changing customs. I'm Maria Ressa. Thanks for watching.